Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
That's what I tell them. I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. How to code, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with a topic session. Oh man, and I want to put the warning out there first that it's gonna be pretty hot on this one. We got some great men doing great things in education. Truly excited about this one. Truly excited to highlight each and every one of them. Truly excited to hear about some of their experiences to share with you, in hopes that you can take some gems from this and use it to help you be better in your educational journey, because they're all doing great things. And so what I want to do first is just go around the horn and let each person, tell, briefly, intro themselves, give their name, their title, where they're located, because I want you guys to know that, and then their years in education. And then we'll do that. We'll go around the horn and do that. And then after that, we'll dive into the questions that we have for you guys. So first, we're going to have Dr. Taulton to be on with us here shortly. But Dr. Gilder, you want to start off first? We'll go in alphabetical order.
All right. My name is Carnelius Gilder, proud superintendent of West Sabine ISD in Pineland, Texas, Deep East Texas. I have this is now academic year 4. I'm excited to be in this space. Done it long enough now to where new things aren't so new anymore.
That's good. So good. Charles Woods.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Woods, 21 years in education, coordinator of special services in Barbers ISD. Man, love every day serving people. I live to serve.
Love it. All right. Dr. Daman Harris.
What's good, family? I'm Daman Harris. My day job is managing higher education partnerships and professional development schools in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, which is between Baltimore and DC. We border Baltimore. One of my side jobs and passion project is I co-direct the Building Our Network of Diversity project. It's also known as the Bond Project. And we support efforts to recruit, retain, develop, and empower Black and Latino men in education. And just my first book was out recently. It's called The Anti-Racist School Leader. You can find it wherever good books are sold.
Let's go. Congrats, Doc. All right. Dr. Darryl Henson.
Good evening. Darryl Henson, Superintendent of the Marlin Independent School District. 17 years in education, 4 going on 5 years in Marlin ISD. And we are formally the state's best kept secret. I love all things Marlin ISD, so go Bulldogs. And I say right now, Marlin, Texas, it's all about our children and our community.
Love it, love it. All right, LaMont Lyons.
Yeah, I'm LaMont Lyons. I am 20 years in education, right outside of Pittsburgh, suburban school district, right outside of the city. I'm a principal there at the middle school, 3rd year at the middle school, and I'm actually transitioning to a district level position July 1 as a director of student and community engagement. So something new that I'm excited to embark on in my 21st year. So yeah, I heard you talking about students, and that's where I'm at now. They put me in a role where I'm going to be overseeing student and community engagement efforts for our district. 6,000 students in our district, large suburban school outside of Pittsburgh.
Awesome. All right. Troy F. Kemp Sr.
Hello, everybody. I'm Troy Kemp. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I come to you from the Ron Clark Academy, where I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships. This is year 33 in education for me, teaching, coaching, being an administrator, also even running a nonprofit, the National Center for the Development of Boys. My specialty is beyond working at the Wrong Talk Academy. I do professional development for educators, and my specialty is reaching and teaching boys.
Love it. Dr. Willie Kelley.
Willie Kelley, hello, everyone. 16 years in education. I'm currently in Conroe ISD, where I've been for the last couple of years. Prior to that, I was Assistant Director of Transportation out in Aldine ISD for about 14 years. I've played various roles from teaching, coaching, assistant principal, assistant director, and now assistant principal out in Conroe ISD. And that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, awesome. And then we're going to go to Dr. Bryan Taulton.
How's it going, everybody? Good evening. Bryan Taulton, Superintendent of Coldsprings-Oakhurst, CISD. Not too far from Conroe. Been a superintendent now for 6 years. This is my third year serving as superintendent of schools in Coldsprings-Oakhurst.
Awesome. So as you all can see, a great wealth of knowledge, a great wealth of men with a huge passion for making education better and doing all things great. That's a play on words from my guy, Charles Woods there. He has an acronym, GREAT. So, but what I want to do now is just go around the horn. We'll go the same order. And Dr. Taulton, you were known, but we'll go alphabetical order. So you'll be coming up first. But if everybody could just answer the question, and I'll give you the question, then as we go around, just like we did, I'll call your name. So the first question is, why is it important to have effective communication in education? And Dr. Taulton, we'll go to you.
I think first and foremost, we all know the importance, the value of just making sure that there are always open lines of communication. And from a educational leader standpoint, executive leadership standpoint, doesn't matter what your role is. You want to make sure that stakeholders know what's going on, and that could be from establishing goals for the year, progress monitoring, just open communication about things that are happening across the district, deadlines, timelines, information that needs to be shared with all stakeholders. From a district standpoint, we talk about things as far as we have an emergency alerts procedures process and protocol that we have in place for providing parents with updates with information that's happening across the district. Last week we had to close school for a day due to flooding conditions in my area, and just getting those things out. And so on the backside of that, I think from a communication standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, you model that. And I'm sure, like I said, the last time that Mr. Baker and I had an opportunity to discuss this topic, talked about just some of my communication channels that I have in my district. I communicate with my board every Friday, as well as my essential staff. We do have, I've streamlined those systems in my district as well. When I first got here, they were using, the campuses were using different things. And some of the parents would get upset about, okay, well, this campus is using this platform, this one is using another platform. So I streamlined those platforms. I also have a PR coordinator that I work with on a regular basis just to make sure things are updated on a regular basis. Like, for example, your website. You shouldn't go to someone's website and they have information from 3 years ago. So just some of those things, but then also making sure your communication channels are consistent. As I mentioned, I send an email out to my essential staff and my board every single Friday. They get attendance reports. The board gets the attendance reports, our ADA reports, every single week. So I say all that to say you need to make sure you're very, very succinct in those systems. You shouldn't communicate 1 week on Friday, 1 week on Saturday. We as I mentioned the last time Mr. Baker and I spoke, it was more so being consistent in your communication channel.
Yes.
Just make informed. Like just last week, we're getting ready to close school. I'm talking to one of my board members at 2 o'clock in the morning. We're getting correspondence out to students and to families and students. Roughly about 5 a.m. Our school day starts at 7:45. So I say all that to say communication is key. And like I said, I think from a leadership standpoint, we have to model that. And we have alert protocol that we have district-wide that we share with stakeholders. And we live by that as far as communicating information out. So that's my spiel. But all in all, like I said, communication is one of my areas of expertise. But communication is essential. It ties back to communication.
Awesome. Thank you, Doc. All right, Dr. Gilder.
So Bryan really laid the foundation for this question, because for us in school districts, especially where we are, like he said, we had a major catastrophic event that affected several of our counties in Deep East Texas. But where I am, we actually didn't have any. We were right outside of the flood lines, but we had a straight line wind, or hadn't been confirmed yet as a tornado, and my kids had just made it to school. So making sure that we were able to communicate right then and right there in the moment and in the minute without relying solely on social media to get to all of your parents, all of your stakeholders at one time. So I'll go back to the mantra that, leadership rises and falls on communication. And I say that because it can make you or it can break you, particularly for those of us that are in that head leadership position. But then for those of us who are in charge of departments, for those of us who are in the pipeline, you have to make sure that you're talking wherever you are. You consider yourself the nucleus, especially if your name is on the dotted line. So with that being said, communication is one of our core values. So whenever I got to my district, we didn't have really any plans or procedures in place. Communication is the first place that we attack. We made sure that we got a new website because we needed to make sure we were communicating there. We got new protocols for with the press of one button, I can get the word out to my parents, to my teachers, to my board members, to everybody that is in my phone tree at one time. But then also, when it comes down to communication, it's also imperative that we are constant. So Bryan mentioned it when he talked about, having consistent forms of communication. People need to see you, because that is the culture of your district. That is the health and wealth of your district as well. And so I will allow a lot of the logistics that he spoke of to speak for me as well. But I think it's so important, especially with so many safety situations going on in district. We need to make sure that we're on time. A lot of times I'll jump on and if I just grab my phone when something happens in the moment, I'm live on the scene with West Sabine. This is Dr. Gilder, and go, because you have to be live on the scene. And again, it can make you or it can break you.
So good. Great nuggets right there. Let's go to you, Woods.
Man, the first two go, and it's hard to follow. But, just to kind of go behind those guys, when I think about effective communication, I think about clarity and a safe place. You can communicate all you want to, but if your environment or your community is not understanding what's actually being communicated, then it's pointless. So making sure that you are clear in your communication, however your community receives it, the communication the best way, you got to adjust those things as well. You can't be communicated one way and your community can't receive it that way. So I think clarity and then that safe place is where, man, like, you are communicating, you getting that information out, and people know that you have the best intentions for them and those that are around them too. So communication is very important, but how you communicate is very important. That effective communication is the key to everything that you do. So clarity and just making a safe place for people to receive that communication and give that communication is so important.
Good. Dr. Harris.
Going all the stuff my brother said before me. And I'll add that communication is at the heart of education. Right? So it is some of the stuff that we just talked about, right? You can't ensure safety. There's no insurance of safety without effective communication. But there's also no teaching and learning without effective communication. right? So we have to be able to, whether it's at the building level or the system level, folks have to articulate a vision, perhaps it's in the form of a strategic plan, right? You have to outline what the instructional framework might look like and how the curricula are aligned to whatever standards you're trying to hit. Have to use transparent performance milestones and things we're doing with staff in terms of what the standards are for all the folks in your different bargaining units. Like there are a bunch of different ways that you can have clarity around who we are as a system and where we're going and what happens if we're not moving like we should be. Right. So I think that's really where my head is around communication in addition to what was said before me.
Sweet. Dr. Henson.
I've always said that as a leader, your number one role and obligation is clarity. And clarity through communication. It is how you build trust in relationships. If you're consistent over time, because education, we are a people business. And you have to make sure that as you interact with people consistently, you're clear. They understand. It is how you set the direction and vision of where you're going. As a leader, and it says in my Bible, I don't know about y'all Bibles, but in my Bible, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And so not only must you have the vision, you need to be able to articulate the vision. And then ultimately, it's how you make decisions. If you're making decisions, we make thousands of decisions every single day. I'm glad to be on this call with my brother, Dr. Gilder, my chapter brother, my frat brother, Dr. Taulton. And I know for a fact, and just speaking with them on the regular, if we're making constant decisions, whether it is through crisis, through controversy, or a general decision, we have to be able to communicate throughout the entire organization. So not only from my direct team, but to our parents, to our children, to our faculty, to our staff, but more importantly, and I think that this is the important part about communication and clarity and the importance of it. It lends to transparency and accountability. Yep. If you're communicating, you're allowing yourself to be transparent, but more importantly, it allows for everyone in the organization to be held accountable to what is being said, what is being spoken about, what is being talked about. Because once again, in my Bible, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And that's in Proverbs too.
Come on. Hey, Doc, since you went Bible, I got to give you amen on that. Hey, I'm gonna do another one on you too, and I got to give you a boom on that one too. Let's go. All right, let's pass it over to LaMont Lyons. What you got on that?
So wow, how do I follow all of that? A lot there, but something I think about is students first, and that's how I communicate with our staff, and our teachers, our parents. I mean, what's in the best interest of those students, and the timely communication that's in the best interest of those students, transparent communication that's in the best interest of those students. Sometimes we make decisions, and I heard one of the brothers say 2:00 in the morning. I don't know anyone that wants to be up at 2:00 in the morning having those conversations, but it's in the best interest of those students. Right. So that's why we have those conversations at 2:00 in the morning, or I'm at a football game and you get a text message and you gotta miss a play or two, right? So I think sometimes you got to be a little inconvenienced sometimes to have that effective communication. And we're also talking about growing too and learning from the communication. Sometimes you don't always make the right communication decisions. And I can speak to that. I'm a very reflective guy, and I think about, even today, like, did what I sent out, the email that I sent out, was that communicated clearly? Or the students that I talked with today, was that information communicated clearly? Anytime a student leaves my office, I always say, do you have any questions or anything else I can answer for you? Right? So I want to hear from you too, to be sure that I'm able to, communicate that information effectively. And you're able to take that information and do with what I'm asking you to do with it. So that goes for our teachers as well. So it's important. It makes the clock. It just makes everything work in an educational system. Without it, when there's breakdowns, and you also have to think about where are some breakdowns along the course, right? Is there a breakdown with me, or is it someone that got the information is now transferring it to someone else? Where are those breakdowns at, and how can we rectify and fix that, and ultimately not make those same mistakes, right? So I think communication, you got to grow. You're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect, but all of that in a nutshell, I feel students first. We make those decisions based on our students' well-being, safety, and well-being, and what's best for them.
Love it. Good stuff. All right. Kemp, Troy Kemp, what you got?
Now, I'm gonna come out of left field on this one because I've been thinking. I'm glad I love to hear. Well, first of all, thank y'all for sharing that, because you can obviously tell by the altitude, what altitude you're at when you're talking about this, because, for example, safety and what you recently been through, which leads me to this point. To be effective in any organization, particularly the leaders of the organization, you have to be two things. You got to be relatable and you got to be reliable. And relatable, you can't be relatable whether you're a teacher teaching students or you're an administrator or running an organization if you don't know what's going on, what the wind chill is like. The thermometer might say one thing, but the wind chill says something else. And when you communicate, it's not one way, it's two-way. So the feedback part of it is essential too, because some people can sit up there and teach all day, and just like Charlie Brown, the kids don't hear a word they said because they are not communicating effectively, which means they're not listening. Because sometimes people think it's the mic, it's also the speakers, right? But for me, I was a ball player, and I know the first thing we had to do is know the snap count. And you can have one person that don't have a snap count, and it's a wrap. It don't matter how good your players are. And so communication to me is synchronizing people, getting them on the same page, like you all were talking about the consistency, because again, it doesn't matter how good your plan is. If you're not executing it on time and together in sync, it's a hot mess. And I've seen schools be disrupted and have a beautiful blueprint for things, but when it came to execution, there was poor communication, which led to a lack of trust. And there's two things that move the crowd. You're either going to add fuel or you're going to reduce friction. And people try to add fuel. They're trying to push a rock uphill all day. All you got to do is put some oil in the engine. Trust and communication is like oil to an engine. It reduces friction, which causes people to move. I'm not going to preach a sermon right now because you know how I go right now. And you talk about the Bible down there, Darryl, Henson right there. You got me rolling. But when I think about this, I really think about the practicality of it. And all you got to do is, if you really want to take it down to the basic level, anybody's been married, you know what communication means. It ain't going to work without it. So it's a system. Any system you have, that's the fundamental element, or you don't have a system.
Love it, love it, love it. Dr. Willie Kelley, what you got on that?
Wow, so much has been said about communication. And as I think about it from the standpoint of the operations side of the district, as well as the teaching and learning side of the district, whether you're talking to a mechanic that has to work on a bus, whether you're talking to a network engineer to keep your systems running by way of IT, whether you're talking to your finance team, whether you're talking to your history department, communication is at the foundational level of all of that, because any effective organization that's moving forward has effective communication, not just communication, but effective communication. And so it is the conduit of which knowledge and information moves things forward, right? It's at the heartbeat of that whole educational ecosystem. And so education cannot survive or thrive without that clear and concise communication. And people won't know what to do if you don't tell them how to do it, and be very, very streamlined with your processes, et cetera, as you're talking to them. You talk about students. so many different students, so many different walks of life, so many different upbringings. But communication is how we individualize what they need to get what they need, right? To differentiate what they need, because it's just so much diversity in the entire system of education. So effective communication is key, it's paramount, and it is at the foundational level of how we move things forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So good. Well, just in my reflection on hearing the things that everybody has said so far, I just want to make sure that, like, before we started, I did warn the audience that it was going to be hot, right? I warned. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that I warned them. I told them, right, that it was going to be good stuff. So, man, with this first round, so good. Thank you guys for weighing in so heavy on what you gave. And so our second question that we'll hit on is, what are some things that you have seen that has worked well to have great communication in education? So this is, some tools in the toolbox for them, if you will. And so we'll go back to you, Dr. Taulton.
Just some things in the toolbox. I do think that, like I said, I mentioned a couple things earlier in my district, just really streamlining. Right now, everything that we do is driven by technology. There's apps out there. There's different mediums in which you can communicate. Obviously, you have your website, you have apps, and so on and so forth. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of what we did in Cold Spring was really streamline the communication channels. Being that, like, say, for example, we use Remind. I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with Remind, and we have that across the system. When I first got here, I think there were some campuses that were using Class Dojo. The parents were complaining and saying, okay, well, how about streamlining those processes? That way it's consistent across the district, right? So the district has a Remind account that we can send information out to all parents across the district. The campus also, now parents can sign up for the district. They can also sign up for their respective campus. They can sign up for athletics, transportation, but they're all the same versus utilizing so many different mediums to really communicate information through. So those are some things that we constantly look at, but just make sure those things are established across the district, because that was a big complaint that parents said, okay, why not just streamline that to utilize just one medium? So we use Remind app. And that's what everybody across the district, teachers, parents can sign up for their child's teacher's class, and district communication. All of those have been streamlined. But at the same time, like I said, I do leverage the use of my PR coordinator as well, and just making sure our website and things like that are current. And then you have, obviously Facebook. That's one thing that I, having the opportunity to both serve students and serve communities in both large and small school districts. I've noticed that, more your suburban and urban areas are going to use Twitter or X, right? But I'm in a rural community. My rural community uses Facebook. So I tailor my communication to what my community is going to use, me knowing that. So everything we do is we communicate information out via our Facebook page. We have a lot of, we have probably about anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 community members that have signed up for that. But at the same time, that's our medium. But so we want to tailor things. If I posted things on X, our community doesn't utilize X. So there's just those things. But at the same time, we also get surveys out. We get surveys out every year to parents, guardians, and families this time of year to get some feedback, okay, on how we're communicating. That way we're constantly heightening our effectiveness in terms of how we communicate. Are you getting a lot of communication from district level, but not so much from campus? Are you getting a lot of communication from district and campus, but not so teachers? So those are things, like I said, that we're constantly looking at ways to better communicate. Like I said, I spend a lot of time this time of year pushing out information. That way we can keep the school community at large informed and engaged of things that we have happening across the district. This time of year, for example, we just did Teacher of the Year for the district yesterday, Teacher Appreciation Week. Every year I've always done the actual Teacher of the Year. We did Teacher of the Year a while back, and then we break those down and we do a District Teacher of the Year for elementary and secondary. We went and honored those teachers. We always do it the week of Teacher Appreciation Week. That's out there. Graduation, things that parents and guardians want to know right now. When is graduation? When are all of your end of year events per campus? We got all that information out. Then school supply lists. These are things that parents want to start knowing about right now as you wrap the school year up. Then also the question they're going to start asking very soon is what? When's the first day of instruction for next year? So all that information right now is currently on our website. Right now today, as we wrap the school year up, we had roughly 12 days left. So these are things that parents want to know about right now. And that from a communication standpoint, getting that information out to them, that way they have it. Because even when we were talking about, I talked a little bit about earlier about taking a phone call with one of my board members at 2:00 in the morning about school closures. People are waiting. I had a couple of parents inbox us like, "Hey, y'all have been consistent with your timeliness of it," and my staff knows that. So, from a superintendent and a leadership standpoint, you transition from superintendent to meteorologist. That's what they call me when they see me walking around because people want to be informed. So that was my little spiel, but I say all that to say, looking at mediums, looking at streamlining, that way you're not using so many different mediums as far as communication. Parents like things streamlined because what Vermont, as I was mentioning, they can get district level communication, campus level communication from the campus administration, but also teacher level. Some plays athletics has one, the Remind app as well. And then at the same time, tailoring communication channels to your school community. My school community does not use X or Twitter; they use Facebook. So that's what we use. So
I love that. Love those nuggets, especially the tailoring the communication to your population and your clientele. Like that is huge, right there. That's huge. All right, Dr. Gilder.
So I think one of the major pieces that came out of the last question from all of us as a comprehensive mantra is that communication must be consistent. And so when I took this job, actually, I got this job in 2020, COVID year, the Tuesday before we got out for Christmas. And so I literally jumped into the seat of a plane that was already in the air. One of the wings was broken and the tail was on fire. So we had to come and bring a whole lot of things together to stabilize the district. Again, one of the things that we did was we established core values, one of them being culture, one of them being communication, one of them being consistency. And what I consider to be the most important one is credibility, because all of those things pour into that. And if we don't want to be anything else, we want to be credible. When they say your name, that ought to mean something. So with that being said, one of the first things we had to do, very similar to Dr. Taulton, we had to create a one-stop shop. First of all, the website that we had, man, you had to get some jumper cables out to get that thing going to get something on. It was bad, man. It was terrible. So we scrapped a lot of stuff and we came down to one system. And so this one system that we did, yes, it did cost a pretty penny for a district as small as ours. But what it did was, again, in the state of emergency or for the state of convenience, if there's a message that Dr. Gilder needs to get across, I can, from my phone even, get this message across and I can click several platforms and mediums at one time. It could be X and Facebook and a live stream. And if I wanted to text every parent in my district, it'll do that and email them the same message with the picture and go to the app and go to the website all at one time. But that's that consistent piece. We're not saying different things at different levels. And then that also feeds into our district Facebook page, because again, just like Dr. Taulton said, we are a Facebook rich district. And so with that being said, how this feeds even for privacy's sake is that we also have a two-way communication within this same platform. So, and it links to our student information system. So when they register, this program feeds from the Student Information Center. So it automatically links you to your teachers and so forth. But then also, being in a small district, we all wear many hats. I have coaches that drive buses. I have cafeteria ladies that do other jobs. I have custodians that serve as whether it's community groups or whatever on the weekends. There's a lot of streams of communication. But if you need to reach somebody, all you need to do is go to that website, or if you've downloaded that app, every employee is there. You can click the button and call them, or you can click the button and send them a message, and they'll get back to you. And that's not even the embedded two-way communication piece. But also another thing is that we are hyper active in my district, from student extracurricular activities to co-curricular activities to even the staff. And so even the examples that were just mentioned with first day of school, last day of school, award ceremonies, all of these things are going on right now. State track meet just ended, regional track meet, you name it, it's going on right now. So one of the things that we did was so simple. We created what we call the Tiger Calendar. Every activity in our district, if it's a superintendent's advisory council meeting, you can go to my website and see that we're having one next Tuesday. Health and wellness night, which is tonight. Go on the calendar, you'll see what time it starts. We have the address in there that links to Google calendars or whatever. So the who, what, when, where, how, what time is all in one place. And so, but that Tiger calendar also feeds into all of these other platforms. And so that was kind of monumental for us to bring us together, number one, as a district, not just campuses strolled doing their own thing, but then also it bridged that gap, because that was a chief complaint in our district, was that who knows what's going on, and or they're doing one thing over here and they're doing something else over there. So when we transition from one campus to the other, the system is still the same. And so with that being said, that consistency was key. We became credible overnight in that department. And now the main thing is just continuing with the mundane so that we may continue to grow in excellence.
So good. So good. And I saw Dr. Henson, he was enjoying the whole Facebook piece. When that tickled him a little bit.
Just wait till my turn. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. Woods, what you got?
Man, I'm gonna comment on that Facebook thing. Like where I've been, Facebook's been evil. It's been an evil platform for us. But I'm not going to harp on that. Some of the things that I've seen that work well in the districts that I've been in are those district created apps, where you could put your news, you can put your calendars, like school closures, all of those pieces. Those are great pieces to have. Parents tend to kind of link up with those apps because we're an app-driven world. Yes, we are. Also, it's parent link. It's that message, we call it now, it's Parent Square, where they send out text messages and you get emails as well at the beginning of the year when all families are registering on the computer. There's a part in there where you can put in your number, your cell phone number, and your email, so you'll get those automatic messages that'll come to you, let you know whatever's going on in the district, from track events, football events, awards, school closures, whatever it is that's going on in the district. You are up to date on that. It just doesn't go to parents. It just doesn't go to the community. It goes to everybody that is in that school community. So those things have worked real well. But when we talk about communication in these different devices that create that effective communication, we cannot forget that we need to make sure that those forms of communication are translated, because we have so many different families from different diversities that we need to make sure that we are aware with our community who we are serving, so we make sure that information gets out to them clearly and they are able to receive that message. Sometimes when we're so quick to put out these things, we forget we might need this translated in 4 or 5 different languages. So that's a piece that's worked real well in the communities that I have served.
Man, good nuggets there too. Dr. Harris.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said to brothers by my brothers, just like the last time I got on here. I've been speaking in the middle, man, or toward the end. All I need to do is be like, yeah, I co-sign like what they all say. But the other piece, I'll check in on too is I heard a lot about the clarity we need to have with communication, the consistency we need to have with communication, the timeliness that we need to have. And when we have particularly person to person communication, we also need to think about the posture that we have. So sometimes like we need to have a posture of respect and sincerity, of positivity of intent so that folks are ready to receive what we're saying. Because if if they are in fight, flight, or freeze because they don't feel comfortable around us, whether it's a student, a colleague, or a community member, right? Then our communication isn't going to get us where we want to be. And we also have to have it, like Brother Woods said, that language piece is critical, right? Linguistics are important. You also need to think about culture. And there needs to be there needs to be a cultural aspect of our communication styles that we need to sort of code switch when we're talking with different groups so they can hear us a little better. An example I give is this is year 28 for me. I forgot to add that when we introduced ourselves. I know you said that. Probably 15 years ago, I was in the classroom and I had been doing equity work, DEI, anti-racism stuff for a long time, man, 20 some years. And in my class, when I used to show up to places, I used to be one of the only Black men who were teachers there. And some parents would come up to me every new place I went and say, thank goodness you are here, somebody who understands us and can talk with us. Well, and I thought I was so cool until I had a student teacher who was a Latina. And my Latino families came to her and said, thank goodness, we got somebody who understands us. And I thought that I was doing that. But it was language for her, but it was also eye contact was a little different. The expectation around personal space when we're having conversations, bodily touch, like all those different things that put people at ease, allow people to be more vulnerable, and they're really ready to receive the information that I'm sharing, and they're ready to give me something back so that I can grow in the way that I serve. Right. Like, so I think that's another key to what we're talking about here is not just because communication is the skeletal system, right, of our school systems. But like, it also needs to be that timeliness and all that other stuff. We got to think about the posture that we are adopting when we're sending and receiving communication.
Love it. I love that analogy too. That's some real stuff right there. Yeah. All right, let's go. Dr. Henson.
And thinking about communication and the different tools that you use, it was shared earlier that you have to lead and communicate within the community in which you're in. So in Marlin, Texas, Facebook is more accurate than the dictionary. They're like Webster who, but it's all about Facebook. Facebook is more accurate than the Constitution of the United States of America. In Marlin ISD, Facebook will declare your independence than that document signed on July 4th in Philadelphia called the Declaration of Independence. So we make sure that, yes, we utilize all the various tools from our websites to our call-out systems. But down here in Central Texas, we have to make sure that if we want for a message to get out, whether it's used for good, for evil, we utilize Facebook as our primary source of communication. This past week, a lot of floods hit Texas, primarily in that Houston area and pushed on up to Central Texas. Our school day begins at 8 o'clock in the morning. We canceled school. Myself, our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Stacey Parker, our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Nikki Edwards, we canceled school at 7:53 and didn't get one parent complaint. How do we do that? Facebook. When it was put on Facebook at 7:53, everyone in our town is the county seat. And in Texas, we have an H-E-B and a Walmart. So, we doing it big out here in Marlin. Don't talk about us. Don't talk about us now. We got an H-E-B and a Walmart. We got them both. We are double dipping, double down, like on blackjack. Marlin got, a 10, and the dealer showing a 6. Double down. We got them both in Marlin. So we put it out on Facebook. And by 7:54, every bus made a U-turn and every parent knew. But I think the point what I'm trying to make is we understand how our community communicates. Yes, X, Twitter, there's our websites or other forms of communication. But I believe that in order to lead people, you have to understand. That's why I don't believe in leadership styles or communication styles. It says in Corinthians, Paul was all things to all people. So you have to make sure that you communicate to the people who you serve in the way that best fits them. Leadership and communication is not about you or what makes you comfortable. Everyone wants to say in every interview that they are a servant leader. It's the thing to say. I never say that in an interview because you're going to tell by my words and my actions that I'm here to serve. I should never have to tell you about my service. I can show you better than I can tell you in more ways than one. Facebook is how we communicate. If we're going to cancel school, if we're going to have school, what the cafeteria menu is, if the water's working, if the water's broken, whatever's going on, Facebook in Marlin, Texas. And plus, they like to talk about me too on Facebook, but that's a different story.
Let's go. All right, LaMont, Lyons, what you got on that?
A lot has been shared. So what I think about with effective communication and what I've seen and just experienced myself is understanding those perspectives from families, the community you're in. I've heard that a lot, and I think that's important to really understand who you're working with, who you are leading. It's not a one size fits all. You can't have everything. You can't just, because I know this shiny new thing, this thing that's going to work. This district does this. So you just can't just grab and just reach out for everything and say, hey, we got it all. And then you have 20 different ways to communicate information out to people, 20 different styles, 20 different things you got to download. You got to, I think on our website right now, we've really streamlined what we use for communication apps, what we use for our student information systems, because we had too much. And I think when you try to do too much and you try to go too big, you confuse everyone. You confuse the people that are within those four walls too. So so if you're confusing your own people within, how do you think those people, the students, the families are going to receive information or not receive information if they're looking at 50 different avenues to receive information? So going back to really being having reliable sources, because if you have something that's reliable, you're going to start to build that trust with your clientele, with your individuals, and that will ultimately show where you're coming from. You're building relationships with those individuals. Relationship building is important, and it on a side note, from the platforms and different apps, I really think like effective relationship building is important, because you have to have relationships to get people to move. You have to have relationships to make an impact. You have to have relationships to serve that community. So it's really important to get at the heart of those relationships with your students, your teachers, your staff. I'm big on relationship building, and the shiny new things, the different apps, those are part of relationship building, but also those conversations you're having with your families within your four walls of building those relationships and trust. Really sitting down last week, I had this conversation with a family, and the family kind of went, or the conversation kind of went a different direction, but I had to reel it back in because the student and the family was presenting that I didn't care, or I was not being transparent about things. So I really had to take off my principal hat and say, hey, this is LaMont talking now. I have this conversation with your son. I had this conversation. I know your son better than you think I do. I know his favorite rap group. So, I think it really started to strike a chord when I was able to say, hey, I'm not looking at this on top and wearing this principal hat and not trying to get down to your son and the nuts and the roots of the situation. I really care about what's happening. I really have a heart for what's going on in this circumstance, in this situation. So when I really got down to that and the parents saw that I really cared and wasn't trying to be this high and mighty and throw my title around, I think that really helped because I got into the relationship. I started to I made that connection. They saw like the genuineness in what we're trying to do. So I think all of that is even the genuineness, and when you're trying, the higher up, where you're looking at the systems, you have to be genuine. You have to be true to who you are. You have to be student first. I feel that has to always be the central focus when you are talking about any types of things, whether it's the ground level, the high level, the middle level. All of that is important to really show like, hey, I'm about your kid. I'm about these kids, and this is the business that we're in. So I really think relationship building, being student friendly, student first is the approach that's very effective with communication.
Awesome. Troy, Kemp.
I mean, y'all laying this thing on, man. I'm feeling kind of bad because I don't use Facebook that much, so I'm in trouble now, right? Now I'm in Atlanta. We use a lot of things, but thank y'all for sharing what you shared because I'm gonna pick back up on what Dr. Gilder said. He said, we got this program, but it was, it costs a lot of money. Here's the first thing: effective communication. Your budget and your schedule are your moral documents. What you decide to spend your time on and spend your money on is going to determine what you value. I don't care what everybody else says. And when it comes to being able to have a platform that's going to allow you to communicate possibly in multiple channels, or in particular in the channels that the people need or the channels that they're on, is worth every penny, every type of investment you need to make. And so unfortunately, hopefully other people who hear this are people who also are responsible for helping making sure people have the resources they need to communicate. Second thing, I want to double down on leading with the relationship piece, because here's the thing. You usually can tell whether you've had effective communication when something goes wrong. And it's not just the weather. It may be a decision where you were going right and you got to go left on something. And now all of a sudden, the communication piece is about, do you even know who your opinion leaders are in your organization? Because everybody's like a house. Some you have load-bearing walls and some walls you can move. You got to make sure that you are really building strong relationships with everyone, but be absolutely certain you know who the opinion leaders are in your organization, because those are the people, they're like signal repeaters to Wi-Fi. They're the ones that echo your signal when they can't hear you on one end of it. They're also the ones that'll make sure people are on the right channel. And speaking of that, there's active and passive communication. There's the things that you push and the things that you post. Having a place where people can go, a central location like calendars. Calendars are powerful because even when you think of teachers, effective communication, academic calendars, test calendars, teachers try to layer all these tests on the same day and quizzes and assignments, heavy assignments. There's rules that say you're not going to have more than X number of major assignments on the same day. If you don't have that calendar, how would anybody know? And so they're not, so those policies are protecting those students. When we talk about effective communication, it's multiple levels. It's internal and external. But going back to that relationship piece, I will say this. I travel around and speak in schools all around the country, and the ones that really get interesting is when I have to speak and there's a translator up front. And I talk pretty fast, and I have to slow down for the translator, and I have to keep pausing. And I'll be like, man, I lost my train of thought because I like to feel it, not just read it. And I get jammed up. But I was working with a principal who has a high number of students where English is not their first language, which means the parents may not know a lot of English at all. So now you want to talk about communication. Facebook ain't even going to save you on that one. But one of the things that happened is through the parent programs. He did something called Feed and Read, where he took cohorts of parents and they would eat dinner, but they should also learn how to support their child on reading even. So there were books in Spanish and books in English, but as long as the kids were reading. And so to understand, I didn't even think about that. I was like, well, we're always thinking of reading the books in English, but they still have to develop their vocabulary, even if they're developing in Spanish as well. So getting on that level, Mr. Harris right there, when you dropped that, when you talked about the relationships and really how you approach people, being in the trenches with folks. Folks, there's some brown faces on this screen, but there are a lot of people who teach kids that don't look anything like them. And so the question between surveys or the walkthroughs, we do home visits for our kids. We do it because we want to know who at the house and who Big Mama is. When we do photos for the kids, we do family photos. Because everybody want to show up with that photo. We take a picture of all of them. If y'all want to show up with the whole posse with the church hats on, whatever you want to do, I want to know who Big Mama is. Because at the end of the day, that might be the person that's the opinion leader that gets somebody to ride with you when the parent might be riding in a different direction. So when I think of communication, I really think about the fundamental piece of it is having a relationship which helps you have the trust. Because even if you say something's true, if they don't trust you, they don't have to follow you. So sending the signal don't mean nothing unless somebody's ready to receive it. So I really love the fact that several of you mentioned that as well. And then the last piece I'll say is we utilize our parents quite a bit. And again, knowing who the opinion leaders are, but make sure it's like having captains on a team. You can't. There are people that have a lot of ability and people who are really bought in. And every now and then you don't have people who are bought in and invested as much as they should. A lot of those people you can't move with power. You got to move them with peers. And so having people who are on their level in the trenches with them, seeing it from that same vantage point, who are empowered, who understand your objectives, who believe in what you're saying, but are not a threat to the people they're trying to move, changes the game. So being able to deputize, one of the biggest principles of extreme ownership is decentralized command. You got to have people in your crowd who can move the crowd too. I rest my case.
There it is. MC mean move the crowd. I heard that before. All right, let's go to Dr. Willie Kelley.
Hey, Chip, next time, man, we're going to have to draw straws or put some numbers in the hat and pull numbers.
Yeah, you go first on the next one, Willie. You go first, brother.
Right. Man, so much has been said once again from so many experienced leaders. One thing that I want to touch on as it relates to communication is feedback. You can't be an effective leader and not learn to accept and want feedback, right? Because feedback is how you learn what's working and what's not, right? When you talk about your geographical area and what mode of communication is best going to reach your population, you have to send out surveys of different sorts maybe, but you definitely have to go and get the opinion of the stakeholders in that community so you can know how they best want to be communicated with. A couple years ago when I was doing my dissertation, I had a focus group and it dealt with parental engagement and the partnership between local education agencies. And with that focus group, one overwhelming, resounding answer that kept coming back was, we want to be communicated with, and we want to be communicated with often and in the way that we want to be communicated with. Well, I've had the privilege of serving in an urban context, in a suburban context, and in a rural context. And all of them want different communication. So I think it is in our best interest as leaders to make sure that when we're communicating different things, that we don't necessarily get rid of email, don't get rid of remind. Think about s'mores, right? You think about this technological age that we're in now. People want to see QR codes to get information. But you can't forget about your grandparents who might want to walk by and drop a note card in a box, because that's the mode of communication that they're most familiar with. We have the phone dialer systems. We have the websites. There's so many different ways, and I think that they all have their appropriation. But again, I think it has to do with the geographical area you're in and how your community best responds. And then last but not least, the multilingual stakeholders. We can't just communicate, again, in the ways that this pocket wants or that pocket wants. We have to make sure that everybody receives the information that we have to go forward. Everybody matters. The mantra, all means all, is a real thing, right? And we got to make sure we get that communication out. And so we got to make sure that we're communicating in a multilingual facet so that everybody can get what they need. And so those are three quick things: feedback, multiple modes, and making sure we're reaching our multilingual stakeholders.
Awesome. So good. So as we close, I want to make sure that I go through and give each of the participants an opportunity to share their social media so that people can check out the amazing things that you have going on. And those of you that are checking out this segment, I'm going to just tell you, it's worth your time to go and check out every one of these guys and the amazing work that they're doing, because it's awesome. And so I'm going to flip the script. Dr. Willie Kelley, I'm going to go with you. I'm gonna throw it on you first, brother, and then we'll go reverse order from there.
Hey man, I want to be treated like everybody else. Go ahead and ask me the question too, Chip.
Hey, okay, let me do a quick. Dr. Willie Kelley, what's one final nugget that you have about communication? And then let's give them your social media.
I love it, man. I love it. So one final nugget as we kind of wrap up is remembering that there are multi-modes of communicating and that different audiences require a different mode of communication. It is definitely good to have the technology to be able to push certain buttons and streamline it all, right? So that everybody's saying the same thing is being communicated, but it can happen in different mediums to get across. I think that's very important, and that we shouldn't forget about that. And then also making sure that we communicate with the stakeholders in our geographical area and how they best receive that communication. So those are the couple of things that I think that are very, very key to communication. Oh, lastly, in moving things forward and making sure that everybody's doing what they need to do, keep it simple and concise. Keep it simple and concise. That way everybody can get it. Hey, you can find me on Instagram at Community Kelley. That is Kelley with Kelley, where I do drop parental engagement nuggets so that we can continue to make sure that we are helping and partner to make sure our kids have the best choices and opportunities. Willie Kelley is my name. Thank you, Chip, for bringing this all together. I appreciate you.
Sir. Yes, sir. All right, Troy Kemp, what you got, Doc?
Amidst all the nuggets that were shared, I still boil it down to the fundamental thing is communication is connected to care. And ultimately, care is connected to the relationships, which helps you build trust. And if you don't have trust, it doesn't matter what type of messages are out there, they're not going to listen. So you have to make sure they're ready to listen, which means you got to build the relationships prior and understand the people that you're serving. Being relatable and reliable is essential. And what that means in the context of your organization, it begins with being relatable. And if you share the same story and narrative of a lot of the families you serve, you're lucky. But I would always begin with the worst case scenario. Just assume the kids and the families don't speak your language and they don't look anything like you. What kind of plan would you have at that point? That's how you build your plan. You build your plan from that. And that way you're not missing anybody because you're like, all means all. I agree with you. You can reach me at troykempspeaks.com. That's my website. And at TF Kemp Senior on Instagram or on X. I use Instagram more than X. And I don't really use Facebook. So y'all can save that.
All right. LaMont Lyons.
All right. So I just think we shouldn't forget the human element of communication. We can't forget. And I know we're in a technological world, but the human element of communication is timeless. So from the heart, you really have to speak and to connect and to build relationships. We can't forget that. I also think that it is important that we build that trust and we're reliable, we're dependable, and relatable, and we can genuinely connect with individuals. That's what it is. That's what it all boils down to. That's what it comes down to. Serving and making an impact with individuals. That's it. No matter how that looks, that's what people want. They want that human element. They want that connection. They want that relationship. And I think we just can't forget to give them that. That's important. It will transcend anything. It'll outlast. It'll stand the test of time. The human element, the connection piece. And you can find me on LinkedIn, LaMont Lyons, and also Lyons Principles. It's PRINCPLES. Lyons Principles on Instagram. Check me out there.
Awesome. Dr. Henson.
Yes, social media, X at Dr. Henson 2, Dr. Henson 2. Just final thoughts. As a leader, when I think about communication, it's all about compassion. If you have a compassionate heart for people, a heart for children, a heart for service, how you communicate, being mindful and thoughtful of it is going to serve through in your communication style and the various platforms that you use. But more importantly, it's all about advocacy. There is a cost for doing the right thing for children. And Chip, record this right now. My name is Darryl Gerard Henson. There's an even bigger cost for doing the right thing for Black children. And sometimes you have to be willing to pay that cost. The same way that you pay your mortgage and you pay your car note and you pay for all these other things. If you're going to sit up here as an educational leader, you have to be willing to pay the cost for the children and for the community that you serve. And I can speak on behalf of the phenomenal school board of the Marlin Independent School District. I can speak on behalf of our faculty and staff, of our teachers who are all advocates and who we have all paid the cost. We have a 99.9% rate of satisfaction. But that 0.1%, though vocal, I'm willing to pay the cost to not allow 0.1% to be cancerous for what we're doing and how we serve children every single day in the Marlin Independent School District. Pay the cost. If some of y'all don't even pay your tithes, but pay the cost, it's a lot more than 10%. Pay the cost. There's a cost for doing the right thing. For children, it's an even greater cost for doing the right thing for Black children.
Dr. Harris.
And I don't know, the word for communication in Texas and Georgia, where some of you brothers are, man, is strategic. Like, my book, man, over in the back is anti-racism, right? On the title. Like, y'all gotta be careful, about using that type of language. Because that's a career cost. Hey, but I want to talk real quickly about how we make sure the folks on our team uphold those communication standards to which we all agree. Right. And it starts with us at the building or system level with articulating what those standards are, modeling how that should go. And if folks still need some help with getting that, then we need to do some coaching with some folks. Right, we do some evaluation to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. May end up doing some documenting with folks, and then we do some celebrating when they're meeting these standards. And when all else fails, we're doing some career counseling with folks, right? If they're not willing or able to do what we need them to do in the ways we need them to do it. You can find me at damanharris.com, Daman, D-A-M-A-N. You can think of it as the man. I'm the man. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active in the professional sense. I'm on X at Daman_Harris.
There it is. Charles Woods.
All right. All right. When I just to wrap it up, for me, I go back to that piece of clarity. Make sure that you're clear in your communication, that you're not rushing through whatever method you're using in communication. Make sure that it's right and it's going to address what you are trying to address with your community, and it's also going to be received by your community. So whenever I think about clear communication, I think about the clarity in it. I don't want mixed messages when I receive them. So you definitely shouldn't push mixed messages out to your community when you're communicating with them, making sure they understand, they can receive it, and they can receive it the proper way. I know different brothers said on this piece, it's about, it's just not about giving the information. It's also about receiving the information. Make sure when you're pushing it out that you could receive that information the right way as well, because we don't want to push something out that we wouldn't like to receive ourselves. So clarity is what I land on when I'm thinking about communication. My name is Charles Woods. You can reach me at Charles Woods WW on all platforms, including Facebook, Troy, including Facebook.
Let's go. Dr. Gilder.
So again, my name is Cornelius Gilder. I'm easily found. I am Carnell Gilder on Twitter. Look me up by my name on LinkedIn, or you can just go to my website, breadspeaks.com, and you can find all of the platforms there. Just as a final thought, communication is something that has to be, number one, transparent. We talked about the accountability. We talked about all of that. My dad always taught me that it's okay that you measure more than one time before you cut. And you must think of communication the same way. Anything you say once, you ought to be able to say it multiple times. You ought to be able to stand on it. And so with that being said, my final thought for tonight is communication is the conduit of constant clarity. It's continuous, it's constant, it's consistent. It doesn't stop, but it is a conduit. Remembering again, like Brother Darryl said, that we are in the people business, and your stakeholders are business owners, taxpayers. The way we're built in Texas, the taxpayers are the boss. So people who don't even have kids or who even care about the school, they sign your check. So with that being said, teachers and students and bus drivers and people in operations, and those are the key people, and they're not on Facebook. But those are the people you got to call first when the building's flooding, when the lightning is struck, whenever the building's on fire. And so with that being said, again, measure multiple times, make sure you're accurate, and then you shoot and then stand on it.
Good stuff. All right, Dr. Taulton.
Just a couple things as far as social media. I don't do a whole lot of social media. But I am on X, Bryan underscore Taulton, also on LinkedIn. And if y'all get a chance, like I said, too, feel free to check out our website, cocisd.org. Just a couple of takeaways when it comes to communication. The first thing I would say first and foremost is that you must lead by example. You can't say and really convey a message of communication if you're not doing it from a leadership standpoint. If that means getting up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sending out information to all your school stakeholders, that's what you do. There's a lot of things, like I said, too, that happen behind the scenes that oftentimes district staff and the community does not know, right? We had to close, we were considering closing school a couple of weeks ago. We drove the district for an hour and a half. Before we came back to school on Sunday, I walked the campuses for a couple of hours just to make sure things were in order. But I say all that to say, as far as communication, 3 things: transparency, be very crystal clear in your message, and then be timely. Those are my three key pieces in regards to communication. So those are my takeaways.
Awesome. Well, again, as we close, I just want to say thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to hang out with us for this topic session as we talk communication and education. Truly appreciate it, and I wish you all continued success on your journeys. And thank you, everybody that's checking out the session. We'll see you next time. God bless.
Go get it.